Hey, pop stars, welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us. This week's episode is brought to you by Summertime, letting you know that swimsuit and short season is right around the corner. Do you know any other season that has its own badass theme song? Summer, summer, summertime. Ooh, sorry.
Summertime!
I hadn't warmed up the voice yet. My bad, my bad. Tammy, what's your favorite season?
Winter and fall.
You know, I'm a big fan of winter.
No. I'm going to change that. Sorry. I would say winter and spring, but not spring in Texas.
Yeah, in this part of Texas, we only have two seasons, hot and damn hot. Maybe warm and cool might come in.
No, killer hot. Killer hot.
Yeah, killer hot. Like, hot damn, bitch. Like, I ain't going outside in that. Like, it gets so bad down here. You can literally go take a shower and get out the shower still sweating. Like, it's bad in the summer here. But
you gotta blast your AC down here.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I'm a winter person. I love winter and fall, and I wish that we lived in an area where the leaves actually change and didn't just die and fall off the trees.
Yes, like real autumn. Like,
yeah,
that's when it's not fall; it's autumn.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we're getting close to summer, which is good. But anyway, so in case you guys haven't guessed. By this week's sponsor. This week, we will revisit one of our favorite shows from last season, Bel Air, the dramatic reinterpretation of the hit 90s sitcom that launched Will Smith into superstardom. This time, we pick up with season 2, and Will, played by Jabari Banks, is estranged from his family after the events of last season's finale. So, Tammy, with this season focusing on healing and reconciliation, what did you think of the second season of Bel Air? Was the prince still fresh, or did he turn into a stale pauper?
I'm neither. I think season 2 was not as intense or as engaging as season 1. I still enjoyed it. I watched it week to week. It was one of the only shows that I actually kept up with week to week since it premiered for season 2. I enjoyed it, but like I said, the excitement and the engagement from season 1 necessarily wasn't there. Like, it didn't 100% pull me in for the whole season, but it was still an enjoyable season.
Okay. Yeah. Goodness. Speaking of hot, my glasses are fogging up. I had to turn on the ceiling fan. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It started off slowly, and it picked up to me probably about episode 6.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad it didn't take Will too long to reconcile or to go home, but I thought they could have, like, some of the first stories throughout those first few episodes could have been consolidated. And like I said, it didn't really find its way to me until like the second half of the season. But I will say that I think the theme of this season was selfishness, because everybody was really selfish. I think the only one who had a healthy bit of it, who had to learn how to be more selfish as far as their time and their giving, was Aunt Viv, and we can get into that. But yeah, I think the theme of this season was definitely selfishness, and it was a bit much. So what did you think about Will? And so we'll start with him since he's the star. What did you think about his journey this season, or his story?
Will was way more cocky, I feel, and arrogant this season, and selfish, that's a good word to use, than I think last season. He was still trying to get his bearings. I feel like, I like the fact last season that he stuck to his, Philly roots, but he was still, finding his place in Bel Air, in his new life, with the family and everything. And I feel like with this season, he reverted back and he started to be even more hardcore. Like, yo, I'm from the streets. And I like, there were a couple characters that really told him, like, dude, especially Jazz. I love the conversation that that Jazz had with him when he was just like, this ain't Philly, like this ain't Philly streets, like you're not in Philadelphia no more, like this, you in LA, like come on, like you need to chill and you need to figure out your place in this new world because you ain't going back. And I feel like he was trying to like be so hard, like I'm from the streets, and I'm just like, but dude, you was never a gangster. Like that was my thing. I was just like, it wasn't like you was a gangster living in the streets. Like you weren't. Like you were a top straight A student and a top athlete. Like I didn't get that. I thought it was too hardcore with the Philly street life kind of thing. Like I felt it was too hardcore for that because that wasn't necessarily his life that he had. I do like the kind of turnaround in the end, where he started to see where everybody else was coming from and stopped being selfish. It was too late in the season, I think, because I think it was maybe episode 9 is when he really, especially when he found out about Doc, where he started to really see where everybody else was coming from and started to realize that, hey, I'm not the only one that needs to be taken care of, but I need to take care of my peoples as well. But yeah, so that was just kind of my opinion of this season. He just needs to lay off the Philly stuff. Like, dude, like embrace your life. Embrace your life.
Yeah, I liked I love that conversation that he had with Jazz. I referenced that as well. And I think that, like the conversation with his mom could have been had earlier, where she told him stop looking for everything and everyone else. And I think part of it is um, he didn't quite know. It would have been one thing moving from LA, moving from it would have been one thing moving from Philadelphia to LA, just trying to find his place. Just whole new set of friends, whole different lifestyle, everything just, East Coast, West Coast, all of that. So that struggle too. But I think also coming in with this whole already predetermined identity as the bad boy,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. I think he felt like, in a way, he had to live up to that, from the Philly streets, like you said. Uh, Dude, all most people know is that you came to live with your family to get out of trouble because you caught an accidental gun charge nonetheless. That was pretty serious, but um, let's be real, you weren't really about that life, right? Like you said, and I think, especially with the people on the team, it was kind of like, look, this isn't really my car, or this is my car, but I live in Bel Air. When people said, hey, like when they said, well, you live in Bel Air, he goes, no, that's really my aunt and uncle's house, but that's your car. They bought you that car because you just said your aunt, you know, and it's like you can it's like at this point it's tomato tomato. You live in Bel Air. Your aunt and uncle are your family. They don't treat you any differently. You're the one who still sees yourself differently. And I loved when he kind of started turning that back around on Lisa, and he said it's really exhausting to always make yourself the outsider. Um and so I think he did that, and I'm with you. I think it lasted too long and it was way too much of it. And I liked when he did kind of calm down a little bit and start to see that, hey, it's not just about me. Um, and I so getting into that, Carlton, I love um I God, Carlton was a mixed bag this season. Um I loved how they portrayed his story. Um, I think it was very realistic in the sense that uh, the self medicating and the reasons why he was self medicating, how initially the getting high was an escape, and how then it became a crutch. Um, how at the time he probably decided to quit, that he was already an addict. So quitting cold turkey wasn't necessarily something that he could do, but I love the different dynamics of him, and I think you got a better understanding. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm glad they didn't just drop uh, the anxiety story from last year as an excuse. I'm glad we got to see him deal with it in a different way. So, as a character, I like what they did with him a little bit more this year, how you got a better understanding of who he is and where he's coming from. That being said, he's still a massive asshole. Two things can be true, right? It's not an either or situation.
Yeah,
Saying all of that, I love the way they told his story, but he's still an asshole.
he is.
And um and I think one of the ways where they really dropped the ball, I would have loved for there to have been more high stakes with his bender. Like when him and Connor went on that bender and his car got stolen and
Mm-hmm.
Connor was missing for a few days. I'm like, I don't know if I wanted Connor to necessarily turn up dead. I think that may have been a little bit too much. But if his car would have been found wrecked, if Connor had turned up injured or if Connor had just straight up gone missing, I think the stakes would have been higher because as we saw, he really didn't learn anything. And
Nope.
I don't even think with him outing himself um, at the founders ball the way he did, I still don't think he really learned anything because when he went home and he still tried to turn it around on his dad, like that is the reason why like his anxiety um is because of his dad. Because and in that instance I agree with Phil. It's like, dude, you've been given every opportunity. You have the parents who, it's not like your parents work a lot, your parents have their,
But they
but
love you unconditionally.
additionally, and your mom, like you call your mom after a fucking bender and she shows up for you. She comes and gets you, no questions asked. You know. Um, and so it's just like, dude, like, so for you to turn around and try to blame them and blame everybody else, blame Will. No, dude, you were using before Will even showed up.
2, 3 years. He is 16 years old. He's been using since he was in middle school.
So it's just like your problems go deeper than your cousin. They go deeper than your family. And I get like, okay, you're not necessarily, and so like there were moments like the moment when he was honest and he started talking about his mental health and his issues. I was like, okay, this is a real moment. Like, he had those moments where he could make himself relatable. And I kind of get the other asshole, the one who was into Lisa, I forgot his name, but when he
Drew.
was like, Drew, like I'm the villain, and no, like Carlton was kind of like Teflon Don. Like no matter what happened, he still came out smelling like roses. You know. Um. So yeah, I was just like, okay. So I still think even by the end of it, he didn't learn anything, and I was happy to see that that they were actually looking into um putting him in rehab, that this wasn't going to be just one of those times where he could apologize his way out of it and promise to do better. So I still think there should have been higher stakes with the higher stake consequences from the Bender story, and I think they kind of dropped the ball with that.
But I think you know what? I think that there were some high stakes consequences to his bender and to his drug addiction. I agree with you on I had no sympathy for Carlton. And it's crazy to me because I'm like, he's still a teenager, right? And they have impulse control. They don't have any impulse control. And so I understand you becoming a drug addict because let's look at society today. Like that is becoming an issue. But I think like I agree with you when you said like even through it all, even though you could see like, yo, that's some real serious shit you're going through, you're still a fucking asshole. And you have no sense of, I'm just gonna put it out there, you have no sense of what it takes to be a black man in America. And that's part of what your dad was saying. Like he's talking about like, I'm not the son, I know I'm not the son that you wanted, and Will comes and he's the son that you always wanted, and I don't act like that, and I'm so different from everybody in my family. And I'm just like, are you seriously trying to turn this around on your parents? and say they're the reason why you're an asshole? Because they're not. They're not. Because if his parents were the reason why he was an asshole, then what happened with Hillary and Ashley? Because they're not like you. They're going through life, like, you know, just kind of going through their angst and everything like that. But to see like your whole family is so pro-black and so in tune with that, and then there's you, and then you're a drug addict for cocaine. And I was just like, whew, it just irked my soul. Just everything just irked my soul. I hated the fact of like Vivian let him get away with too much shit. She babied him too much. When you first realized something was off, when you picked that boy up, are you seriously telling me that you just accepted his lies?
Because Jeffrey knew.
Because Jeffrey knew. Jeffrey knew. Jeffrey looked at him and was like, your lies are going to catch up with you. And Jeffrey didn't even directly call him out. You saw, like, Jeffrey never directly called him out. But Jeffrey let him know, I know you're lying, and you're lying to your mother. And there's more to that story. And I swear, Jeffrey probably found out exactly what happened and was basically waiting, like, I'm going to let you tell your people, because this is a family situation. But just know, I know what really happened. And but with Vivian, I feel like even when like Connor showed up, and I was just like, you mean to tell me this whole entire time you didn't know Connor was an asshole? Y'all didn't get to see the video of Connor using the N-word? Like none of this came to mind about this situation. I felt like they let him slide too much. They let him slide too much, and that's why it was never caught necessarily. That something was off with his story. Because, Eddie, did you believe his story?
Fuck no.
Okay, like if you didn't know exactly what happened, right? And he comes to you with the story that he had, did that sound like a believable story?
Fuck no.
Because it didn't sound like a believable story to me. So when I was just like, there's no way she's believing this. Like, I swore up and down, Vivian's not going to believe this story. And when she actually, like, believed it, I said, are you serious? I could clearly tell he was lying to you, to your face. He was lying to you.
And there was a moment where I thought, okay, maybe she's trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I was like, okay, maybe she wants to believe. Maybe it's one of those moments where she wanted to believe it more than she actually believed it, if that makes sense. Like, she wanted to believe that he was, like, because you could tell her mother's intuition, like, she knew something was off.
But never called him out on it.
But never called him out on it.
She never called him out on it. I liked, and I didn't like Drew's character necessarily, but I think that was the purpose. So he served his purpose well on, because you weren't necessarily supposed to like Drew. But what I did like is that Drew was willing to call everybody out for their bullshit. And it was kind of like,
being an asshole.
Yeah,
I know I'm an
asshole, but you are one too. And yet y'all calling me out for what I'm doing, but y'all letting Carlton get away with the same shit that I'm doing. Even worse. Like, when he put that video out there, I was all for it, because that is one scene that was so, like, important. And I was just like, that needed to be out there. Like, you needed to see on the fact of saying, like, you allowed white boys to use the N-word in front of you, and then you tried to explain it away. Like, that's here, especially to the Black caucus on your campus.
And the way you treated Will, when Will was like, this ain't cool. You know,
exactly. Like he being too much.
Yeah. And it was just like, okay. And then the way that affected your relationship with your cousin, when y'all had been getting along up until that point, because you wanted to believe the dude over him. Like, if he wanted to blow up your spot and put out that video, he could have done it when he first came.
And he didn't. Like, that's not the relationship that they had at that point. It just was not the relationship that they had at that point. So for him to just, and you know, and people can be like, oh, it was the drugs. No, it was the fact of saying that he fell back into his old ways, and he was cool again with Connor. And so ultimately you willing to blame your cousin because he's competition. And I think that brought out his insecurities. Will has always brought out his insecurities because he knows that he's the weakest link of his family. And so because he knows that, Will being there showing like this is what you're supposed to be, because let's be honest, when he told his Philip that, it was true. Like you when you look at your siblings and you look at your parents and then you look at you're the odd person out. You don't fit necessarily, but they loved you anyway. They took
Yeah.
care of you. They helped you with your anxiety. The fact that in the beginning of the season, he guilt tripped his mom into persuading his dad that he no longer needed that he no longer needed medicine, that he could regulate his medicine himself. I was just like, come on, y'all.
Yeah. So I mean, he was a, like I said, it can be true. I love that we got a deeper insight into the character, but he was still an asshole. And
Yeah.
I also liked that we could see that like, I think just by his nature, he's a little bit of an asshole. That's just who he is. And even as much as we loved Goofy Carlton in the original series, he was a bit of an asshole. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I appreciate that we got more insight into him, and like I said, all those things can be true. So I love that they didn't just pull the thread on the anxiety story and let it go and expect that to excuse everything. Like, we saw the panic attack, we saw, some of the things and the stress, and it's like, okay, well, maybe if you hadn't tried to, like, wean yourself off of your medicine, or go down on your dosage, or would have been honest about it not necessarily working, you may have not felt the need to just go back and self medicate. So it's just like a lot of things, were happening with him. So if it's renewed, I would hope to get into next season. I would hope to actually see him do the work and see the rehab and see the work that he puts in, and just, get to know the real Carlton. Like, how much of him is really an asshole? How much of it is the drugs? Like, I still say underneath it all, there's still some asshole. Like, I think he would be like Drew. like
Oh
like
yeah.
Drew was right. Y'all are more like than you think. Like, not, you can't, like you said, you can't blame it all on the drugs. Um, Speaking of the Banks children, Miss Hillary, what did
Mhm.
you think about her story this year?
Um, I think Hillary's story was filler. Um, but it was nice filler. Like, she was background. It was filler information. I hated what she did to Jazz, and she didn't necessarily fully recognize. Um, it is definitely going to hurt to know after you didn't tell me, but to literally come over for an event and meet your ex-boyfriend, and he is a star football player in the NFL who still loves you. Like, that would hurt. Like, that it would be the same thing as in if she met Jazz's ex-girlfriend and found out, like, what, like she was I would say Cowboys, but that's not
A supermodel, like
yeah, like she was a
Naomi
supermodel.
Campbell or something. Yeah,
Yeah, like, or no, or even something as
she was
where
Zendaya.
she was a huge influencer, because that's what she was trying to get into. She was a huge influencer, very successful, and she never knew that that was his ex-girlfriend. And I felt like he was justified in his feelings. So although, like, it was filler, I thought it was really nice filler. I do hate that she was really hurt, and I get how hurt she was. I fully understand it. She went with Easy in the end. And I can understand her choice with going with Easy rather than working on the relationship that she and Jazz had. But I feel she never truly understood where he was coming from on how hurt, and Will said it to her, but I still don't think she fully got it. Like, even as you miss him and everything, you didn't fully get, like, that's some fucked up shit. Like, that can mess with anybody's, like, confidence, to find out that the ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend of your significant other is an absolute star. Like, that would mess with anyone's confidence. So but I like I said, she was filler, but it was nice filler in the background.
Yeah, I get it. I took a little bit of a different approach. Like I understood all sides of it. I did. And in the beginning I was, as the story was playing off, I understood his hurt. I did. I understood that being a shock. But it kind of goes into the whole male fragility. He's an ex for a reason. She's choosing you and she keeps choosing you. I understood the being mad part. I understood initially leaving her on red. But I think after the dinner, things just kind of went downhill, you know. And that's where I think he did kind of like a 180. Um, you know, it wasn't that she didn't believe you had the money at dinner. It's just like, dude, she didn't want to cause a scene at the dinner, you know. And I felt like last season he was ride or die. Like he was the one saying our differences don't matter. I know who you are. I understand what you do. And then this season seems like, and it happens, the reality of it. Like the first big thing about how he was saying the differences didn't matter. The first thing is, oh my God, you dated. And like you said, that would kind of be like, oh, fuck. So I guess where the insecurities were kind of already creeping in a little bit, just as you get to know them and the reality sets in of just how different you are. Okay, the superstar NFL boyfriend, like I said, he had every right to be shook about that and his feelings for a bit, but y'all are moving past it. Then the whole thing with, you know, um, the, the dinner, it was like, dude, you know, if you feel that bad about it and you have the money, just give it to her. Like, I understand. In that situation, I'm not necessarily trying to cause a scene either. Like, here, just take this, let's get it over with, let's be done. Like she told him, look, you have the money, I have the money, it doesn't matter. I don't care about that. So I got it from that standpoint. But this season, I felt like she was trying harder than he was. Like the whole thing with his parents, like she did the most. That shit was funny.
Too much. She did too much.
She did the absolute most, and I'm like, what the fuck? But that was funny. And his parents, I was like, girl, they are over you. Just shut up. Because when they were like, can we just change the subject? His mom and dad were like, yes, please. We just want to eat our meal in peace. But she tried, and I'm like, oh god, that's ridiculous. But it was funny. Um, and so, but every time, like, okay, you missed her, but he never reached out. It was all at this point, it was always on her to reach out and like prove something to her or prove something to him. So I was just kind of like, I wasn't feeling the whole 180. I'm not saying he had to kiss her ass or anything like that. I'm just saying it should have been more of a meet in the middle. And I was like, okay. And I kind of want to see what LaMarcus is about. So I'm not saying Jazz is not in game. I'm not jumping off the Jazz bandwagon, but I understand not necessarily going back to that because again, the things that seemingly drove y'all apart, those things are not going to go away. The differences are going to remain. So
I like her and LaMarcus.
I do too. And that's what I'm getting at. It's like I got to the point where I was like, okay, I didn't necessarily want her and Jazz to get back together, especially now, and I want to see what her and LaMarcus are about. And I just hope that it doesn't fall into once they get together and once she gives him a chance or really sees that he turns into that stereotypical asshole. Like I don't want that. I want to see like if the relationship doesn't work, I want it to be obvious that Jazz is the one or that someone else is the one. I don't want him all of a sudden to just become this controlling, cheating asshole, if that makes sense. The stereotypical reasons like they would try to break them up. Does
Yeah,
that
because
make sense?
it would be changing his character because I like how they introduced LaMarcus. I think that her and LaMarcus had good chemistry, good vibes, and I'm with you. I would love to see how their relationship progresses. I think I would like to see them naturally figure out, like her naturally figure out that although he's an amazing guy, he's not the guy for her. And I agree with you. I don't want him to change his persona because in this season, the reason why they broke up, why you find out they broke up, is because he moved across the country and she didn't want to move with him. And so, if that was the only reason why y'all broke up, that means y'all had a great relationship beforehand. At least she didn't make any indication that they didn't have a great relationship before that. And that was really the idea, was that she didn't love him enough to move across country and leave her family behind when he transferred to a different team, and so, or traded to a different team. So I think that I don't want them to turn him into, the necessary asshole so that it can justify them just putting her with Jazz. But I want to see the slow progression of, he's an amazing guy, but I'm just not in love with him. I think that would even be more realistic and better than trying to change his whole personality in order to fit the narrative that they want to sell.
Yeah, like, or I just outgrew my first love, but yeah, like, so don't turn him into that whole womanizer, make everything he said a lie or all of that shit, because it just wouldn't fit what we know so far. And I think that is the easy way out. That would be like lazy writing. So yeah, I'm okay with her and Jazz taking a break for now. And just because of the 180 that they did with his character, I was just like, okay. And I'm not necessarily saying it's a 180 because I think it was some realism to it where he, it's like, okay, he thought he could, because it happens all the time. People think that they can deal with something, especially men, when it comes to more successful women, or women who have who boss ass women or whatever you want to call them. Men think that they can deal with that, and then it gets to the point where the reality sets in, and it's like they can't deal with it as easy because just in general, if his girlfriend had been Zendaya or Zendaya like or a Naomi Campbell or a top influencer, that, well, I'm with you, that's my ex. We're supposed to just suck that up and be like, yeah, he chose me and grateful that he chose me. And that would be fine. But when it comes to men, they have a harder time dealing with that. And we're supposed to be able to, nurse them through their fragility and always be there to reassure them. So, and I was just like, yeah, but I still love the character of Jazz, though. He had some great scenes, and I love the friendship. I love his friendship with Will, and basically him telling Will to get over himself. Like, dude, you're on the mean beaches of Venice right now playing basketball. This ain't the streets of Philly. Shut the fuck up. Get over yourself. And while you bullshitting the motherfuckers in Venice, they'll hem your ass up. So, um, but yeah. Um, Speaking, did you like? We didn't really talk about much, but did you like the way things turned out with Will and Lisa and Will and what was her name? I don't know why I want to call her
Yeah,
Jean.
Erica.
Erica.
No,
Yeah.
Jackie. Sorry,
Jackie.
Um, I am a huge Will and Lisa fan. I like them together. I think that I love that it was very realistic on how they broke up and how their friendship ended ultimately. And then how you saw they still loved each other. They still cared enough. They still cared a lot about each other, but they were both moving on. And then ultimately they get back together when Will gets over his arrogance and starts to realize that he was being very selfish. And then there was other people that he cared about that he needs to take care of. So I liked it. I did like it. I It's funny to me because does that mean that Lisa has a type? Because she fell for Carlton and she fell for Drew?
I think so. Like I can tell you from my own experience, if I'm attracted to not just blatant assholes, but if I'm attracted to you, I know you got that asshole gene in you somewhere. Like I know it. I mean, I'm not a masochist. I'm not down for the whole toxicity shit, but I know that you carry that gene or that trait. It's just,
Because I saw that. I was just like, okay, so Carlton, and then she saw the good in Carlton, and then you have Drew. You saw the good in Drew. Which I'm sure Drew wasn't necessarily an asshole. He just called you on your bullshit. Like I felt like he was more on, I'm gonna call you on your bullshit. I'm not gonna hide the fact of who I am. Except for when Lisa was around. But I do like that. And with Will and Jackie, I mean, Jackie was a placeholder and I wasn't fully on board. And partly because the only reason why she really approached really approached Will or gave him a chance was because her uncle needed something from him. And so she was on board for that. And so ultimately, like, you weren't genuine in how you ultimately got with him. You liked him, but you still got your own issues. Will got his own issues. He don't need somebody with that many issues like you do. So I was okay when he just let that go and went back to Lisa. That was just my opinion. Like, I was like, because I feel that I like the fact that it seems that him and Lisa are endgame, at least for now. That they're endgame and they're gonna work towards that. We don't know what's gonna happen in the future. But I like the fact of that him and Lisa are endgame more than him and Jackie are.
Yeah, and I love the fact that through it all, they're friends. You
Yeah.
know, I love
BFFs, like
yeah,
really good friends.
I love the fact that the friendship is there, and even when she said they couldn't be friends because it was, she found herself being that girl. It was like just the friendship that wouldn't die. And so but I agree with you. I wouldn't mind if they're in game, because it's TV, they're probably going to break up or whatever, or if there's another person that comes in, because you got the feeling that, as Jackie's character was developed, like once I found out who her uncle was, I knew that there was something else, right?
Mhm.
But what as she was developed and it started pulling the layers back a little bit, you get the feeling that if she hadn't lied to him, that they would have stayed together longer, you know. Um, and but then it was kind of like you saw at the hospital. I'm like, ooh, Will, you're playing a dangerous game, dude, because you could see that he still had him and Lisa had a very deep connection. So I guess I'm glad that they didn't make him out to be the cheater or whatever, you know.
Mhm.
But I don't know. Something tells me that we may not have seen the end of Miss Jackie. Um, did you like the whole AAU storyline?
Yes and no. Like, I so the reason why I was on the fence with it is because it came about because of Will's cockiness, arrogance, and the fact that he wouldn't forgive his family for keeping his dad Lou away from him, kind of thing. And so he went his own way, and this is what came about. And I think that going the AAU route brought out his, like, he got to be real street and he got to be hard because he don't want nobody to know that I'm Bel Air and I'm driving this car and kind of thing. But I like the realism of it, of it wasn't just, it was like everybody was in it, they want to be successful. I like seeing like what it's kind of about, because I know some people who play AAU, and so it was just really really interesting to see. The Doc storyline, didn't see it going the way that it ultimately went. I was just like, oh, okay. Like, I thought it was gonna go a little bit darker than where it went, and I thought it was way lighter than my first thoughts. But I mean, it was alright.
Yeah, I thought they got tired with Doc, or they didn't quite know what to do with
Do with
Doc,
him.
or you have the feeling that uh, as they were writing it,
They liked his
um,
character.
they liked his character more,
Hmm.
and so they kind of had to find a way to make it better.
Yeah.
Because you have the feeling that as the story was breaking in the writers' room, initially with the character of Doc, they broke it one way, and sometimes that happens. Like as you're progressing through a season, um, you know, you find out that, hey, this character has chemistry with other characters. This character has turned into something we didn't quite expect, so we got to kind of clean them up. And one of the shows that I remember did that is Veronica Mars, with the person who actually becomes her in-game Logan. They did not think that
Yes.
they would have that type of chemistry.
Chemistry.
They weren't meant to be in game like that, and then it just kind of blows up. So it happened. So I think, like, you could kind of tell the shift, and so it didn't end the way you thought it would end. And I can't say that I'm disappointed about it. I can't. I'm kind of like you. I'm kind of indifferent or ambivalent about it. I do appreciate the AAU story. I understand. I think maybe I think the payoff would have been bigger, if instead of making Lonzo his former partner, if Lonzo was still his partner and they have to separate that way. I think in that case, I think it would have made it a little, the payoff would have been bigger for Doc, and we wouldn't be so indifferent towards him. He was sexy as hell. I'll give him that. He was a damn good looking brother. But I think we would have cared more about the ultimate story if the stakes, again, if the stakes had been higher. So I think by making Lonzo a current partner who he found out or who they were having these disagreements with, you know, him changing as he got to know the guys, or just something like that. Him finding out Lonzo was trying to use the club to launder money, run jugs. I just think the stakes would have been higher if Lonzo had been more of a permanent fixture for us, especially with Doc's 180. So
I think they changed that, even like that part of the storyline on what they were doing with the partner. Like I think that changed when they started to really like the character of Doc, and the whole storyline changed. I think even the storyline of his partner and who his partner actually was, being a former partner, rather, like I feel like I got the sense that all of that changed when they realized where they could go with Doc in later seasons or later in the show. And so they changed the whole entire storyline. So that could have been the case where you said like them being current partners and one side being about the drugs and the streets and the other side being about the professionalism of it. And even that could have changed in the writer's room as they saw, what basically as they saw what they could do with Doc and the character of Doc in the future.
Yeah. So, now, all right. So the one thing, as much as I love Jeffrey, the whole story with his son was anticlimactic to me. I was like, that was the filler they could have kept. Like it didn't make sense because at one point we've been led to believe the whole season Jeffrey did not know. He knew he had a son. He just didn't know what happened to his son because Viv and Phil had always kept that from him. And then when the son was leaving, when he saw that Jeffrey basically had this whole other life, because and he was like, "I don't know you," which it was true. You don't know him, but you're not trying to get to know him. You know why he left at this point. You came all this way. You claim you're not angry. I understand being hurt, but so I get that. But then when Phil is talking to him, he's like, "Well, Jeffrey, when your parents lost their job, who Jeffrey's the one who kept you in your house, paid for your schooling. When you tried to join all those gangs in London, Jeffrey's the one who kept you from joining the gangs and all that kind of stuff." So it's like, did Jeffrey really know where his son was all along? If so, why did he spend like the first 70% of the season going through your shit trying to find this kid? Like, so as much as I love Jeffrey, that story just wasn't it for me. What about you?
Okay, well, I agree with you, but I was never in love with Jeffrey the way that everybody else is. I like what like the character. Well, I like the role that he plays in the family ultimately, but um, I just look at him and be like, he's just there to be a badass in the background and just make sure like nobody tries to take advantage of the Banks family. Like that's ultimately how I look at him. So I agree with you because I didn't even notice that. That's how little attention I paid to his storyline, is that I didn't even notice in the fact of like before he didn't know where his son was and everything. And then all of a sudden, when Philip talked about, I was just like, as you're saying that, I was just like, oh, she's right. Now, everything else could have been explained on, it was through Philip on how
Yeah.
this stuff got done, except for the gang thing, on stopping him from joining the gangs and everything. I said, then you would have to know where your son was in order to stop the gangs from making him a member. And
And the
so,
people
yeah, so I agree with you on that part.
and the people that you're hiding from, like, and then that I'm like, okay, so season 3, I guess the people that he's hiding from, the people, that the reason why he left London, I guess now they know where he is because he said the calls were coming from East London. I said, so did your son go home and dime you out? Like when he opened that envelope, I thought it was going to be a picture of his son strung up. I mean, that's just morbid in me and just shows you
Yeah,
how much I cared
I
about it.
agree. I agree. I thought the same thing.
So I was just like, okay, so there's got to be a bigger payoff for that. But speaking of Jeffrey, I said it before. Every family needs a fucking Jeffrey. Like this, I need a Jeffrey. Um, I love the part where they were at Dre's office where they first went to meet Dre.
Mm-hmm.
And Dre, and then he said, "Yo, big man, you don't want to do that." Like Jeffrey had his hand on his hip, like, "Who's gonna drop first, motherfucker?" Like, I was like, "Yeah, I need more Jeffrey." And then the part where Lonzo was trying to leave and Jeffrey shows up, he goes, "I don't think this conversation's done." I'm like, "Yeah."
You right. You right. That's why
So
I said badass in the background. Come on now.
yeah, so I was like, okay, yeah, I wasn't feeling too much mopey, creepy, stalkery Jeffrey. Like, I was just like, and then the whole reason they never did say the payoff wasn't there. Like, why were you so gung ho on Jeffrey not knowing where his son was? It's not like he was going to London. Like, I didn't get it. Is he in witness protection? Like, you know, or maybe because now if he knew where his son was, someone was watching his son, but it seems like y'all would know that. So that, like I said, that story just doesn't quite have the payoff for me. It was a little anticlimactic, and to me that was the true filler that we could have done without. Like, I think it could have been something else between him. Like, I'm also glad that he and Philip got their bromance back on track, because Philip was an asshole to him too, you know.
Yeah.
And speaking of Phil, he's playing with fire. He's playing a very,
Oh, he
very
gonna cheat.
dangerous game.
You know he gonna cheat.
Tune up to Carrie Underwood before he cheats, huh?
Mm-hmm. You know it. When you allow another woman to kiss you and you don't say anything and you don't automatically end that partnership, you're gonna cheat.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna
Or,
cheat.
or like the contract is signed, like you're with the firm. So now, and the firm has given you everything you wanted. So now go find you a new liaison.
Yeah. You don't have to work with her. But she knows exactly what she's doing, and he's gonna fall into the trap, which is probably how they got together in the first place. She knew exactly what she was doing when she took him away from Vivian. So I don't see that going any good way at
Mm-mm.
all. And I see her actually she gonna be the Camilla of the show. Because I see her growing her friendship with Vivian while getting with her husband.
Mm-hmm.
I see that clear as day. She's going to get back into Vivian's good graces and then sleep with Philip.
And here's the thing: when she said it, Vivian, she was like, "But you got the man." But here's the thing: he's just the man. You were my best friend.
Friend.
Like, and that's like a sister, like true besties. And I'm not talking like that middle school, kindergarten play best friend. I'm talking about true besties, your ride or die. That's like a sisterhood. That's like a bond. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's the
That's a
person.
sister that you choose, not a sister not a sister you're
Thank you.
born with.
So when your dude is acting an ass, or your chick is acting an ass, or whomever, when whomever is acting an ass, that's the person that you call up in the middle of the night crying. That's the
Mm-hmm.
person that you tell the shit to that you can't quite admit to anybody else. That's the person that helps you see the shit that maybe you can't even admit to yourself. Like, that's the person who keeps it real with you. That's, 10 toes down from day one. That's your day one. So it's like, for that person to betray you in that type of way,
For 2 years?
I'm like, yeah. So when he does come back, it's like, but you were the sister, you were the family. So it's usually easier to forgive that person than it is to forgive the friend, because they knew.
Mm-hmm.
They knew the dirt. When her and Phil were together the first time in college, look at me making up a whole narrative. When her and Phil were together the first time in college, when they were having issues, she's the one that Vivian went and told all those issues to. She's the one Vivian confided in. And
You
so
know
for
what I
you to take for
mm-hmm, go
you
ahead.
to take that, and then you want to talk about, oh, we weren't together that long. Bitch, y'all was together for 2 years. Like, so yeah, he's playing a very dangerous game, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think this time I don't think Viv is going to be so forgiving.
Nope.
So, and I was really happy to see that she finally found her voice, that she was able to stand up for herself and her art, like personally and professionally. she needed to stand up to Carlton a little bit more and be that black mama on his ass because she knew his
Mm-hmm.
ass was lying. But
He need an ass whooping.
hmm
He need to bring out the Philly on Carlton.
thank you. But so I wasn't mad because I was like, don't. Because when Phil said, "Can I talk to my son?" I was like, "Please don't jump in. Let him talk. Because somebody needs to talk some sense into this fool." Like, But so what did you think about Vid's transformation or her character arc?
No, I agree with you. I like that she found her voice, that she was more confident, and I love the fact when she told Phil, this time I'm not giving up what I want in order to support you in the background. I love that she said that.
Thank you. I love when she told him, and she told him, she's like, it's amazing how I'm always telling you or encouraging you to run through your obstacles. You're always telling me to run away from mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah. So it's just going to be interesting if it's renewed for another season. Wow. So do you think it should be renewed for another season? Are
I
you
thought it
interested?
was. It wasn't?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, I gotta look that up. But if it wasn't, then or yet, I'm down for a third season. I would love to see the progression of the storylines. I definitely would.
I would too. I think there was a lot of stuff that. Oh yeah, it was renewed for a third season.
Okay, okay, good.
Okay, yeah. So
I
so
figured
what?
you were looking it up.
You know me. So I would love to see the progression of the storylines, and I think we kind of talked about it. I kind of want to see Will and Lisa just have some regular relationship obstacles, how they get through it. I have a feeling we haven't seen the last of Jackie. Um, I don't know. Do you think he's off the AAU team for good?
No, I think he's gonna go back.
Yeah. Especially with the way they kind of turned Doc's character around, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that would add to the triangle for him and Jackie. Something tells me there's going to be a pregnancy scare or something, or she's going to try to manipulate it, like because Jackie seems a little bit off, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I know what you're saying.
And so I think that's what we're going to see from her. Like I said, I would love to see Carlton just kind of work on his own issues and maybe kind of get a girlfriend. He seems a little bit off too, because I know at one point uh, he was giving like those fatal attraction vibes. Like Lisa's like, this is why I broke up with your crazy ass to begin with. So yeah, and we talked about Lamarcus and just kind of seeing him and Hillary and what they have, and just her coming to a natural conclusion about the state of that relationship, whether it's him or Jazz. So, um, and I would also, one person that we didn't talk about too much is I would love to see, especially as she's getting older, I would love to see more of Ashley in her life and her, um, yeah.
I like
What
to
about
see her. Was she? Do we know what grade she was in? Do you know?
I think she's in middle school. So I think she's in like either the seventh or eighth grade.
Because I need to see her in high school.
Yeah. So I think next year would be a great year to make her a freshman.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely with Will and Carlton as seniors and her as a freshman in high school, I think that would definitely bring a new dynamic to
Yeah.
the school environment. Yeah, definitely.
And especially as she starts, I think, especially as she starts dating more. It was cute, her and her so-called frenemy. Uh, they
Mm-hmm.
they were figuring out, hey, we might kind of be attracted to each other, you know.
I'm like, all
So
right, go ahead, Ash, get yours.
So yeah, I am looking forward to a third season, and I want to see more of Jeffrey be badass. Like it's cool. I think he would be like his role in Phil's law firm would be like the investigator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So what are you have anything else to add? Did we miss anything? I don't think.
I one more thing. I just want to say I love the fact of Tyler and Will were still cool.
Oh yes.
I love that. Like because I like the fact that Will's friendship dynamics were still there. And so he had Tyler, he had Lisa, he had Carlton, on and off. And then he had Jazz. So I just want to say, like, I think that's a great dynamic, and that's one thing I would definitely love to see even more in third season.
Yeah, I would love to see him more of him and Tyler because they're so different and the way they play off of each other. And I love the kid who plays Tyler or the
Mm-hmm.
actor. I know he was on Saved by the Bell, the newish version of it, but it got
Mm-hmm.
canceled. So I think that would be cool because I really did like the part where he told Tyler, "You've been there for me. You're the one person who's been there for me since like day one." Like, and Tyler really was the one, when everybody else, it was him and Lisa who were his two friends at that school from day one. So I would love to see that. All right. So what are you rating this second season of Bel Air?
I'm gonna rate season 2 of Bel Air 3.25. I did enjoy it. Like I said, it wasn't as intense or as engaging, but I definitely enjoyed the season, and I cannot wait for season 3. What about you, Eddie?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it just a smidge. Just my popcorn, I topped it off a little bit more than you did. I think maybe I popped a little bit more, but I'll give it like 3.5. I'm with
Okay.
you. It picks up probably for me about season episode 5. Like the first half of the show is a little bit slow, but you have to watch it just to kind of so you know where everything's going the second half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it wasn't quite as intense or as engaging as the first season, but it was still good in its own ways. So I would highly recommend it. I am glad that it did get renewed for a third season, and I think it was deserving of that third season. So we will see what happens with season 3 of Bel Air, and hopefully it won't be affected too much by the writer's strike. Everything's probably going to be pushed back a little bit because I don't see that ending anytime soon. um, but anyway, so that does it for this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Please be sure to listen, like, follow, and comment anywhere where you listen to your favorite podcast because we like that, y'all. You can also keep up to date on the latest in entertainment pop culture news as well as other amazing good news of pop culture goodness. Kernel, excuse me, of pop culture goodness at the popcornwinddown.com. That's it. That's the plug. Pop it up.
Pop, 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 pop.
Um, Thank you as always, and be sure to join us next week when we review. I'm so excited for this one. Queen Charlotte, currently airing on Netflix, and I have heard wonderful, wonderful things, and it's been so hard. Like I had to avoid a whole hashtag on Twitter. Like anytime I saw anything about Queen Charlotte, I'm like, nope, not even looking at a smidgen. But I've heard great things about it, so I was like, okay, so I'm ready to be pleasantly surprised. It
Mm-hmm.
just looks good from the trailer, so
We'll
yeah,
see.
we will see. So until next time, thank you for joining us as always. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.
Peace.